Welcome to the show, everyone. It's the Crypto Lark coming to you from Wellington, New Zealand, and today I have Craig from Navcoin with me.
Hi, everyone.
Now, I wanted to get him in today to talk not just about Navcoin, but about Valence, which is their upcoming smart contract platform. So, can you give us the short version on it?
Yeah, well, it's called Valence, and it is a blockchain application platform. It kind of came out of the fact that with Navcoin, we've always run a second blockchain to process our private payments, and we wanted to build a platform that we could use to not just process private payments, but perform other smart contract type functionality for Navcoin. And then it grew into, yeah, that felt quite narrow, and we wanted to make sure that we could also allow other people to build stuff on it. If we're going to go to all the trouble of building this application platform, may as well try and open it up so we can build sort of lots of apps, and also other people can build lots of apps for Navcoin, and then also for other coins as well, I guess.
Awesome. And so what exactly is the connection here between Valence and Navcoin? Is this going to be an offshoot of Navcoin, or is it going to be a total standalone?
Well, you know, it's still going to be built by the Navcoin core developers. We're the people who are proposing this platform, and in essence, it's a replacement of our subchain, as I explained. So, you know, it will add additional functionality to Navcoin, and we will always be focused on, you know, building extended functionality using the smart contract features of Valence into Navcoin. Yeah. And
so you're going to have VAPs, or you know, Valence apps.
Yeah.
Nice take on the name of dApps there. Are those any different than a decentralized app as we know them?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of key differences, and that's why we sort of chose a slightly different word for it rather than just calling them dApps. I mean, the way that we're looking to set up the smart contracts is non-Turing complete. So we're really focusing it on the smart contracts on being quite simple scripts, and really focused around data more than tokenization and stuff like that. So in essence, when you're setting up your VAP, it's going to be much more like configuring a database where you're setting up what fields you want that address to accept, and what the criteria are, whether it accepts, you know, numbers or strings, whether it's conditional based on the state of another VAP or another piece of data on the blockchain, or maybe something across on another chain. But that's kind of where we're going with it, more smart data, and yeah, really offering conditional kind of data and breaking it down into these smaller chunks. So your VAP might consist of like lots of small smart contracts that kind of work together and rely on each other's state, rather than being kind of one big monolithic, quite heavy-duty, Turing-complete smart contract.
And so what kind of use cases are you imagining for this? What kind of applications do you see actually being built on top of Valence?
Yeah, well, it's always one of the really interesting questions, because it does feel often like blockchain at the moment is a really great solution for a problem no one's having, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
So, you know, I think part of the hesitancy is, well, from my experience talking to, you know, businesses and other people like that, is that firstly, they just don't really have a great understanding of blockchain. It's kind of like in the, you know, 10 years ago or whatever, when everyone was like, the cloud, we all need the cloud, and no one knew what the cloud computing was, but they all knew that it would solve all their business problems and, you know, make them heaps of money. And it feels like that's potentially where some people are at, especially in New Zealand. We're kind of a bit behind maybe the curve with the rest of the world. But trying to get these people to understand exactly what the, you know, key benefits of blockchain is really the first mission, and then they can start to understand how to meaningfully apply it to their business. The other issue is, I guess, around really needing to go all in on blockchain technology. With the current kind of app platforms and stuff, you really almost have to throw away your business model and kind of start again. It's really great for startups, it definitely has its place, and you can do a lot of really powerful things with the existing app platforms. But to get like an established business to kind of completely change is virtually impossible. So we're trying to sort of really get businesses to understand the areas that can really benefit from blockchain, first of all, and then secondly, provide them with a way that they can just take that vertical of their business and kind of easily add the extra part, which can be adding value by adding a blockchain in there without needing to replace their whole business model kind of horizontally.
Pretty cool, pretty cool. Let me phrase this in a bit of a different way, I suppose. We all have those moments when we're in the shower and go, oh man, that'd be really cool, right? And so, you know, you're developing this platform, Valence, and if you could build a VAP on Valence, what would you build?
Yeah, sorry, completely missed the use cases and went down to how we're going to help people discover use cases and implement it. But yeah, look, we've got a few things that are probably I don't know, like low-hanging fruit, I'd say, that we definitely want to get as sort of the staple of the Valence platform. There's stuff that blockchain does really well, like identity. It's great for identity, and it would be awesome to see an identity platform based on, you know, your private public key pair that you can identify yourself anywhere. It's also really good for escrow, so we're looking to hopefully build like cross-chain escrow with Navcoin. So, you know, a good example of that would be if you were shipping goods to your customer, they could pay with Navcoin. It gets locked into a smart contract based on shipping data, and the shipping data is what would be recorded to Valence and to a VAP. And then once that is marked as complete by the courier, then those funds are released to the seller. And in some type of smart contract. So that type of scenario and being able to roll that out to various businesses and give people that capability straight off the bat would be really good. And another really big one that seems to be coming up more and more is, you know, around data ownership. So people are wanting more and more to own their own data, and there's the need for or want for a compromise there where I'm able to kind of keep it private but on a blockchain. Maybe it's encrypted on the blockchain, but I'm also able to divulge that with parties when necessary. Like if my medical records were on a blockchain, that means that's great because I own them and now they're not scattered around all these institutions, but I still want to be able to give it to my doctor when I go for a visit, but then take it away, or maybe only show them the parts that are relevant to my doctor's visit or whatever to have.
Exactly.
And that's quite a hard nugget to crack. I don't know where we haven't quite found the solution for that yet, because once you reveal your data to someone, it's very hard to take that back. They can kind of just save it, or I don't know. Still thinking about that one, but I think that if that can be solved with blockchain, where we get into a place where people actually have their own data private to them but stored in a public blockchain where they can give permissioned access where and when necessary, that would be another really great use case.
Pretty cool stuff. Now, what about, I guess, blockchain bloat? You know, how are you going to be approaching, I suppose, scalability with Valence, and how are you going to be avoiding this kind of bloat? Because that's a lot of data that we're already talking about potentially putting onto the Valence chain. So how are we going to actually avoid getting that all bloated up? Yeah,
sure. There's actually a few different approaches that we're hoping to implement. We've definitely been thinking about this because scalability of these app platforms is definitely really high on everyone's list at the moment. I think the first thing is really the fact that the smart contracts aren't Turing complete and are kind of structured to be shorter and simpler. Means that there's less strain on the network from running these complex smart contracts. There's also just simply less data in terms of the length of data stored to create a contract on the blockchain. There's also the way that we're trying to structure the actual blockchain is with the main chain sort of separate to all of the data chains, and it's really like a timekeeper that keeps moving forward and is used to secure all of the child chains. And whenever you start up a VAP, you'll essentially be setting the rules for your kind of Genesis block, where that dictates what data types your VAP will accept and all the conditions around them. And then that chain is sort of separate to the main blockchain, but is cryptographically linked back to the chain for security. Still kind of working all of this out, and we're going to go through a whole testing cycle, obviously, to make sure that we optimize that. But yeah, sort of through design and also breaking the kind of blockchains apart into these child chains.
Into the subsets to kind of avoid the main chain getting too blowed up, which is, of course, to an extent what we've seen with Ethereum, right? Where Ethereum's got all this stuff being put on. Now you're starting to see people developing side chains for that, but it's taken them a while to actually get there. So in a way, you've got a lot of advantages because you're developing Valence after a lot of these other platforms have gone through some of these issues, and so you're able to actually kind of learn from their mistakes and learn from their challenge as well. And so you kind of take that step back and go, ooh, we can do something really awesome here and avoid these pitfalls that have happened before. Yeah,
absolutely. I think we are in a strong position because we have been involved quite heavily in the blockchain space for, 4+ years, and from a development point of view, and really been, we haven't tried to rush into this platform. We've been taking our time, really surveying the landscape, talking to people, actually finding out what they need, brainstorming about what's going to work, trying all these different things in our heads and on paper, and then figuring out how we're actually going to move it forward in a meaningful way that's going to hopefully address a lot of the problems that we are seeing in these current platforms.
Very, very interesting. Now, Valence is kind of designed, to an extent anyway, as blockchain for business, or blockchain as a service, as is commonly bantered around. So what are you going to do for businesses? Or maybe the question should be is, why should a business choose Valence over Ethereum or Zilliqa or Cardano or any other smart contract platforms?
Yeah, well, I think we touched on some of it before around, we're really focused on helping businesses identify the sort of slivers of their business that are actually relevant to having a blockchain applied in that area, and giving them the tools and ways to do that in a way that is easy and plays nice with their legacy systems, and means that they don't have to throw out their whole business model. I think that's the main thing. We're also trying to make it language agnostic. So back to the point of being able to play nice with all the legacy systems, we're looking to build in essentially an interface layer that can talk to any of their existing programming languages that run on their system.
Which is important. Obviously, the easier you can make integration, the better when it comes down to it, because if you're asking their developers to learn a whole new development language, for example, it just creates a barrier, and the fewer barriers you can create, the easier it is for these businesses to actually get on board.
Well, that's right. We're hoping, to not make anyone learn a new language, basically. The idea is that you should, because setting up a VAP is basically setting up your database and the conditions, it should be able to even be done in a simple graphical user interface, where it's more just like a menu. We even want to create kind of like recipes, right? Where you're like, oh, I need escrow payments. I'll start with this starting point that's been tested a zillion times and we know doesn't have any contract errors or anything like that. And then I'll set up, it's based on that app over there, and this is the fulfillment condition, and kind of pick and mix like that. And that's hopefully all the blockchain stuff you need to do. Everything else should exist inside your own dev team, on your own servers, interfacing with your traditional legacy systems and writing that data to the blockchain so the conditions can be fulfilled once the real world task has been completed, or whatever your use case is, right?
Very, very cool. I want to switch gears here a little bit. I mean, Valence is super exciting, and if anyone out there hasn't had a chance to check out the white paper yet, go check out the white paper and actually engage with the material a little bit. But it's very exciting. We're really excited to see where that goes. But I wanted to actually pick your brain a little bit about what's going on at Navcoin these days. Now, there is an upcoming Nav soft fork. People get a little scared when they hear the word fork. It's only a soft fork, so you shouldn't be too scared. But what's that actually mean? So what are you guys doing?
Yeah, so it's actually already locked in. It locked in yesterday. at about, I don't know, 10 o'clock last night, I think. So what we are doing is we're looking to, well, there's actually 2 soft forks in the last version of Navcoin Core that we released. One of them addresses a network issue that we were seeing around clocks, people's clocks being out of sync. And so now it's going to be mandatory for users, Navcoin Core wallets, to sync their system clock with a global NTP server to make sure that everyone's in sync on the same time, because it was causing some intermittent issues on the network. The second and more exciting part is the community fund. So this is the first stage of the Navcoin community fund. And what was voted on was reducing the staking rewards from 5% to 4% and starting to accumulate 0.25 NAV per block into the community fund. So that's all that's happening in this particular soft fork. We're still in the process of testing the proposal mechanism, and that will be introduced in another soft fork. So the reason why it has to be a soft fork is because it's a change to the consensus rules, right? So we have to, we can't just do that. Like, we can't just roll that out. We have to get agreements of the network that they want to update to the new version and accept the new consensus rules. And it passed with over 82% approval.
It's pretty good.
And that was only in its like 3rd voting period or something like that, I think. So, you know, probably the actual rates of approval probably higher than that, but some people just slow to update, I guess.
Yeah, and of course I imagine there'd be a few people that would vote against it as well.
Yeah, sure.
But to see actually the overwhelming majority of the community come together and say, we like this, we think that it's a good idea, and I think it's a great idea. When I first heard about the community fund voting process coming up and that there was going to be that reduction from 5 to 4% for the rewards, but that 1% is essentially going towards funding community proposals to help people build on Nav and to help fund projects. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. You know, it's a little bit different than maybe some other funds which have been proposed in the fact that with these funds, they're not getting sent to like a developer wallet or anything like that. They're actually getting generated and then burnt. And when someone claims funds through a proposal, they'll actually get new coins minted to the same amount. From a staker once the proposal has been accepted. And it's actually so yeah, no one controls the private key for this. Like, even we can't access these funds. In fact, they don't even exist. They've been burnt on the network. So there's no danger in us, like, you know, running away with the coins.
Going off to Tahiti and be like, hey, it's holiday time, guys.
Absolutely. There's zero chance of us even being able to do that. And then the second cool thing is that when we do introduce the voting and proposal system, we're looking to implement a 2-step process. So again, it's one of those things where it already exists. We've looked out there and we've tried to see how can we make this better. And some of the risk that's involved with stuff like this is that people make a proposal, they get funds released, and then they never do the work. So we've made it more like how you would treat a contractor. So they put in their proposal, and then the funds will get escrowed, basically. And then as they're doing the work, they're able to put in payment requests for part payments, and they have to prove to the stakers that they're actually doing the work. So if they were building a website, they might come back with some wireframes and go, hey, can you release me 10% of the NAV? Here's the wireframes, check it all out. I'm kind of in progress with this. And yeah, just as a way to really protect those funds from being abused. It's going to require a high level of engagement from the people who are voting on the network and the people who are creating these proposals to really engage with the stakers. But that's what we want. We want a high level of engagement and a real boost to the decentralized development of Navcoin and all of the sort of surrounding things as well.
Okay, so I want to move on a little bit to talk about some of the people you've been talking to recently, because this is really interesting. I've been following your Twitter account. You're busy. You've been talking to a lot of people. We've got the EU Trade Commissioner, we've got the Forest and Bird, Oracle New Zealand, Zero, the World Wildlife Foundation, Trade Me, which for anyone who doesn't know is kind of the New Zealand equivalent of eBay. So what have the conversations been like with all these different players, and has anyone been interested in kind of connecting with Navcoin or taking any interest in Valence?
Yeah, well, at this point, it's largely an educational exercise. I'm going into these businesses to talk to them about pretty much blockchain, what it is, how it works, and really just spread that education piece. As I said before about Valence, one of the real big missions is to actually just get businesses to understand where they can effectively use blockchain. And we can't go into every business and solve it for each and every one of them. It's better to try and just get them to really understand blockchain, at least from a high level, and then figure out how it can be applied in their business by themselves. So, there's not really any business partnerships out of any of this stuff at this point. It's just really that education piece and trying to get these guys on board. I think it's a really important piece, though. We've got a lot of legislation, lack of legislation in New Zealand at the moment around Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and blockchain in general. And I think connecting with these businesses and sort of helping to drive some of that conversation from the top down is a really good approach to, get the attention of the government and the IRD and all these people. If we've got these big businesses getting on board, it's going to send a clear message that it's something that we want and something that we need some legislation for. Absolutely.
And New Zealand's always been this kind of really innovative country in the sense that we've got so many developers here, and we have, like Xero, for example, is a global accounting software firm, and it's based here in New Zealand. It was developed in New Zealand, and that's quite impressive. And I feel like the blockchain train, to an extent, is leaving New Zealand behind. I mean, I know we have you guys here, Navcoin, and you're kind of the premier New Zealand cryptocurrency. And we've had a few offices move here recently. I know Horizon State, for example, they've just moved their office to Wellington not so long ago, but recent sort of indecision about regulations here, I feel, is really going to hurt us, and I feel like we really need to get that education out there to business leaders and also to the government to get them on board with what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got our lead blockchain developer, Alex. He's over in Berlin, and two of our staff are over there as well. I'm working with him on Navcoin projects at the moment, and it's just the scene over there is light years ahead, right? They've got entire shared spaces dedicated to blockchain startups.
It's crazy.
Going to meetups every single night. There's conferences like every week. It's just crazy compared to what we have here. And the fact that the EU Trade Commissioner wanted to come and swing by our desks while she was touring around the grid Auckland is kind of testament to the fact that they sort of know that it's going on and that it's a really important part of business. And it was really, really interesting that even happened, and we got a chance to talk to them.
Nice. And I want to talk a little bit about the charity angle, because Forest and Bird is an organization that I love, and World Wildlife Foundation does a lot of good work as well. And so what has been the interest from those organizations, particularly in blockchain, and what can you offer to them?
Yeah. So my relationship with them is that I donate to these charities personally, and I was trying to figure out how I can help them beyond just making a monthly donation. And it's often better, I find, to donate skills rather than cash, or even time sometimes, direct time. So I sort of approached these couple of charities so far about helping them get accepting cryptocurrency payments up off the ground. And from a pro bono perspective as well, I wouldn't charge these guys any money, just see what we can do to try and get that moving for them. Because I think it's a really good charity stream, and it's also just a really good use case. A lot of these companies also have mandates charities have mandates to innovate as well, to try and attract new revenue streams. So, there's a lot that lines up there, and I'm just trying to do what I can to extend some extra help to these guys who are fighting the good fight,
That's awesome, and there's so many use cases, potentials. I mean, even if we can just reduce the fees that these guys have to pay, because a lot of them will accept credit card payments, through Visa or MasterCard networks, and that immediately means that they've got to pay, 1.5% or 2% or whatever it might be. And there's this famous thing, and I actually saw it on your Twitter yesterday, that $300 million worth of Bitcoin was transacted yesterday, and the total fee of that was less than 1 US cent.
It was, yeah.
It's shocking. It's shocking, and just that 1 or 2% that Visa and MasterCard are taking, that adds up. That adds up over time. Think about the impact of that globally if that wasn't going to these big corporates, but instead actually going to protect birds here in New Zealand, or protect orangutans in Indonesia. That's got a lot of impact. When you start looking at these little pennies, they start to add up. Yeah,
definitely. I think also accepting cryptocurrency payments is really the low-hanging fruit for them. I know that WWF has a program that they're piloting at the moment, which is using blockchain outside of that type of purpose, and they're trying to track tuna with RFID and put them on the blockchain. So you've got fish on the blockchain, and to try and combat illegal fishing basically by saying that you have to RFID every tuna, and it has to be registered, and then that gets all the way through to the customer buying the tuna steak or whatever, and then they're able to see, oh, it was fished out of the Pacific and it was within quota and it was this and that, and all these types of things. So, those solutions are really great. Obviously, when there's any human element to these things, there's always room for distortion of truths and stuff like that. But once that fish is on the blockchain and those actions are recorded, obviously that those can't be undone. So it at least provides some level of transparency, which is beyond what they already have, which is pretty much nothing, I think.
That's right. And New Zealand is a prime example of that. We often suffer from illegal fishing activities here in New Zealand. I feel like our Navy largely exists to chase around these, Chinese fishing boats that are out there, illegally fishing in New Zealand waters. And it's not a question of, those are fish, stay away. It's more of a question of, if all these ships are coming through here and just dragging the oceans empty of fish, there's not going to be anything left for anyone. And that is a systemic problem of a whole different degree, which is why these things need to be controlled and open and transparent.
Absolutely.
Very, very interesting stuff, without a doubt. There's so much going on over at Nav, and of course, Valence is super exciting. So this has been a really, really great chat. We're going to have to do this again sometime soon.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds good.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.